Hi, welcome back. It's Lionel Tech Lead and partner at Westport. And today we have a rather serious matter incident to actually discuss. This is related to pettydressing.com. It's also a YouTube channel that happened to really is quite disturbing, right? Is basically she's been missing for about 2 months. I didn't really think very much about it, but what you know is that she came up with a video, and I'll put the video down there, right, describing what had happened. And there were a couple of incidences for her, but mainly two things happened, okay? The first thing was that her site was spoofed, or she discovered a spoof of her site, meaning someone had actually copied the entire pettydressing.com website and actually put a similar domain name, use all the intellectual property, use all the branding, and just duplicated it 100%. And that's what we call spoofing it, where you take somebody's identity and try to act like them. And this was, of course, very worrying because she built a brand around that. And then the second incident that really caused her a huge amount of stress was that her Instagram account was hacked. And not only was it hacked, but because the way that Instagram is set up, she couldn't contact Instagram, she could not recover that account, and therefore she lost that account. Now, to a lot of people, Instagram, that's a big driver of their business, a big social media strategy, and to lose that in a one whole, like in an incident, especially when all this happened when she was on holiday in Mexico, is extremely distressing. So I'm going to pick apart these two incidents, give you guys some context as a tech lead in the industry, and what can we do about some of this stuff, and what you have to be prepared for. So let's talk about the spoofing incident. Okay, so someone comes around and has copied Chi's entire website. Now, one of the main things is it's very difficult to take any action against this. Very difficult. The first point is that generally these guys might not be in the country, or they might be in the server. The other thing is that she did report them to the authority that handles this kind of thing, and they're looking at the case, but it's very hard to, it's a he said, she said kind of scenario, right? That you copied me or I copied you. They don't know the context, they don't know the branding. That's the first point. The second point on that is that what can they do? If this person or this entity that's done this is not in the country, they're not going to send the police over. The FBI isn't going to break down your door for copyright infringement unless you are some MNC. And maybe they could have just done a little change here and there and avoided this kind of stuff. That could happen as well. There's just really very little that people can do about it. And in the business, we generally copy other people or they copy us. It's quite common. Now, what can you do about this kind of stuff? Now, the whole idea of the front end, right? It's pretty easy to copy because they can see the pictures, they can copy that. But what is harder to copy is the process of setting that kind of thing up. And that's why I always tell my clients, right? The systems, the backend systems that build up the thing are much more difficult to copy. It's harder to go and hack into the server and pull that. And you need to have the intellectual knowledge to actually work with that stuff. And that is very prevalent to Chi's business in petty dressing, where she had already changed her site and they had copied the old site. Now, the thing is that once you change the site, it's very difficult. They would have to rechange and recopy the new site, and by that time you might have moved on. But what you can do to make this more difficult for people, number one, is not use the open source tools. And this is a big negative against things like Wix or WordPress or Webflow, where they have available templates free, licensing with a small amount of money that will absolutely duplicate that look of the site. And there's not much you can do, because if someone's purchased that template for $20, they're entitled to that design. What they put in it that's completely different, out from the designer's control. And they can just follow whatever you're doing. If you have this plugin, they will put that plugin. If you have this system, you have that system. What's a lot harder is a custom system which they can't get their hands on. And then you can roll out features much faster, much more efficient than they can do that, and it becomes not worth their time to follow that. That's why if you saw a Tesla down the road, yeah, we could probably make something that looks like a Tesla, but will it work like a Tesla? Do you have a gigafactory to do all these things? Can you make it at that economic scale? And the answer is probably not. So this is the main point about this. Learn to build control over the system, not just the front end. And that's why I keep pushing people about back-end technology, because it's so much more harder to get hold of the back-end technology. You see a lot of this front-end stuff, right? And someone can just pull it out, reverse engineer it, and they've got it. And we had a similar kind of incident like that. Not really stolen, because it was a client and they just hired somebody else to retouch our front end stuff, and they just changed it for the next version. We kind of not really own that intellectual property. We're kind of okay with it because we got paid, but it left a taste in the mouth that they didn't contact us. They maybe went for someone cheaper. Just re-engineering that stuff, because we spend a lot of money and time to come up with that solution. And if you don't cross-sell it, you don't really make back your money. So that's the first point about people spoofing your site. And I think she understands this. She's gone to the new site, and it'll be fine. As long as her clientele and loyal clientele know about it, I don't think it's going to be a serious issue. Now, switching on to the hacking incident that changed into the block. Now that is much more serious, much more distressing. Here's the thing about this. When a social media company offers you their services, it's a very gray area what exactly they're offering you, because you're not paying them any money. You're sort of like a freeloader on it. So there's no requirement for them to provide you that service. No requirement for them to help you out or spend money on that. So that's one aspect of this, and that's why it's just so difficult. I mean, who are you going to complain to? You're not really a customer at the moment. The second thing is, you have to remember that they own everything. You are just renting, and there are no laws protecting people who rent software. It's not like common law of property where you rent from a landlord, you get certain protection. This is all open to the terms of conditions. So if something happens and they don't have to afford you any kind of service, they could out of the goodwill or what they're providing, but it's very gray area down here. And this is why I always tell my clients, you do not own the software, you don't own the property, you're just a tenant. And some people are okay, they pay $15 or $20, they're renting the thing, but when you are successful, this stuff happens. So when you are making a lot of money, you get hacked. No one wants to hack my account because all I use it for is just store my pictures. People want to hack somebody who's got 200,000 followers. They want to like that. There's an incentive there. So that's the first point about that. You are only renting. You are beholden to the landlord of that place, and you're not paying any fee is even worse. Even if you're paying a fee, something can happen. So to give you an example, right? Recently, there's been a lot of cancel culture going on, where you posted something, they didn't like it, they cut you off. Same thing with a YouTube channel, same thing with any of these things. They do something and they cut you off, right? And that's a legitimate, they are well within their power to do that, but it could affect your business entirely. So what you have to do, right, is when I advise clients is that you need to own some of the real estate that you're using, meaning your own website, your own channels, or number two is to deal with counterparties where you have a win-win relationship going on, that you are of the similar size, that you are paying them some fees, that you have a contractual obligation to protect yourself. An example is how Bumble is now working with the right-wing media, not because Bumble loves the right-wing media, but because they are of the right size. Facebook is here, these guys are here, they want to take care of you. So if you are trying to find a medium, try to diversify your media sources and try to move them to smaller players or hosting that's much more smaller, that where you can actually pick up the phone and speak to senior management and where your business matters. then that will make a difference. If they had to cancel you and they lose a lot of business, then they would work much more harder to try to figure out this stuff. And that's why we try to work with people around the similar size of us. That is something you have to look for. You get better service. You might be able to call somebody and actually recover that stuff. Always check the service quality of your provider as you're going along. It changes from vendor to vendor, it changes from the size. Some of them are just complete disinterested. I mean, she may have 250,000 followers, but that is small compared to, the Rock, Dwayne Johnson's 100 million, So you gotta get the right size down there. You have to have that synergy. And remember, if you're always renting, just try to own some of the stuff. Same thing if you're renting, it could be anything. You could be kicked out for nothing, you could be kicked out. So these are some of the things you have to be aware of. Now, respect to Chi, I really hope, that this incident gets resolved. It's not the end of your business. You still have that wonderful YouTube channel that people watch. I love the content, and I'm gonna put the link down for you guys. I find it really interesting how she shows the tips on how ladies dress and how it affects. I just felt it was very interesting, and I didn't know this kind of stuff. How your face shape and all that, but mainly for ladies, right? But I think that what you need to do, Chi, is you need to diversify your sources. Like, for example, you need maybe a mailing list with everybody, maybe a Twitter account, and then you just inform everybody, hey, I've been blocked out on Instagram. I'm not using that anymore. Here's my site. You have to get your CMS, custom it. Your business is important enough. Don't use off the rack stuff. Try to go custom. These are things that you need to take, look at and safeguard your business. Otherwise, the content you're generating is fantastic. I wish you all the best. These things are so stressful during the December period, and that's the bottom line because the tech lead said so.